everybody, Jason here. We're about to tie the Lisa P. Unique about this streamer. Now you can tie this style in any streamer pattern variation you want. So whether you're tying like gallop flies, like dungeons or barely legals or anything, that all that can still apply. This technique can still apply. I just tied the Lisa P. Just I don't know, just because I had to tie something, but. We fished the streamer. Boy, I've been kind of working on this design for a while. This streamer works as well as any of the streamers. I can't say it's like the best streamer, um, but it works good. I mean, we fished in the Yellowstone, fished it on the Deschutes, fished it on the Yakima before, um, and then where this kind of the jig or strip setup came from was a river up in eastern Washington was. The river, one of the rivers that shall not be named, way up in the corner of Washington. Um, Amazing trout stream, but it was just really high one year, and we ended up fishing streamers underneath an indicator and just did very very well. And what led me to this design was we could throw streamers using like the front eye. You can throw it and strip it traditionally like you would in like banks and stuff, streamer fishing from the boat. But off the indicator, using this jig hook, this top hook, when you pop, when you pop it, not necessarily like stripping so much, but when you throw a streamer under a bobber, it will kind of suck itself back into the seams and the places that you want your fly to live. And so you'll huck it out there, make a big mend, like in the areas like the slower water on the backside of fast water, in high water situations. When you pop that rod tip, the indicator will kind of almost like leave it where it's at, so you can add action, but also you're not actively stripping the fly away from your target. And so it works really good. And then so when you're stripping it from the top hook, from where the jig hook is, it doesn't necessarily give you this action, which can work, but it gives you a little bit more of like a straight action as you're stripping or popping. So you can effectively get two totally different actions of streamer with one fly. And then also it will triple as something that the Euro crowd can get into because of this jig hook. You can Euro it if you want, and it's heavy enough to do so. So lots of versatility with this. Again, consider this a style of fly more than just of a pattern of a fly, if that makes sense. So you can adopt this jig style, this balanced kind of style to any streamer that's out there. This is just a fly that I tied called the Lisa P. But if you're into different streamer patterns or whatever, this will still work. You can also use lead eyes. So for like the dungeon, instead of using the sculpin head, you can secure the heavy lead eyes underneath, and then wrap your deer hair or spin your deer hair around that. So lots of different options. Lead eyes, cones, baitfish heads, sculpin helmets, like all that stuff works really good on this setup. So be creative, have a good time out there, and I hope it works good for you. All right, big streamer time. I've got a size 2 jig hook here, 60-degree jig hook, and this will be one eye. And then we're going to take some spinner wire. This is stainless steel spinner wire. This will be the second eye, so I'm just going to bend it. Now you can cut off the eye of another hook, like a cheap hook or a hook you don't care about, and use the shank, to do that. I just got a ton of the spinner wire left over from some other flies and so it's like dirt cheap for me to use this stuff. So basically I'm just going to fold it in half and make an eye. If you remember, a long time ago in a land far away, the original like Idlewild, and even now that same factory that's tying them, they were using fish tacos, flash tacos, like all those Idlewild early flies. They were using spinner wire. This is what they were making shanks out of. It was dirt cheap, and like literally this is what they were doing for their shanks. And so you know, anytime I need to make an eye of a hook or whatever, like this is what I'll do. So, and then we can size it accordingly. So that's all that is. So first, I'm going to get a thread base here and try not to cut my thread on that hook point while I'm doing it. So this hook here, you may need to source outside of a fly shop. You may need to do like a Sportsman's Run or something like that for this hook. It is going to be hard to find this hook in a shop just because there's really no companies that make this 3x long size 2 that I've really found. So yeah, so there may be a Sportsman's Run or something like that in your future. So tie on your front shank, whatever you're going to use, and then size it to the sculpin head. And I think that'll be just fine right there. Maybe a little bit too long. We could shorten that up just a little bit. Alright, that should work there. So once you have it sized, I'm going to just add a bunch of super glue here and tie it in. Be really careful where you cut this wire. I didn't file this, so I'm going to go over it kind of light until you can build up enough thread to where it's not going to cut it. But we can see it trying to cut right there. That's going to be real sharp. So I'll go over it light, and then I can go back over it, you know, something a bit more, some more oomph. Alright, and then any leftover super glue I'm just going to spread around. So we've kind of made our, made our shank, if you will, with, it'll have two eyes. So I'm just going to whip finish this, clip it, and this we're just going to set aside for the time being. And then you can see this, these sculpin heads have like a little notch in the top here. Can you see that? You see that little notch like right? Super glued the hook to my finger. You can see the little notch right here where it dips in. So that is actually going to rest nicely against where the 60 degree of the jig comes up. And so that's where I'm going to measure from. Is I'm just going to throw this on there, and we can see it's going to rest just fine right there, and I've got enough room here to make like a thread dam to hold this on. And so that's going to fit really good. So that's what we're after here. That's how you size that. You just want enough of an eye left over to where you can make a thread dam and then get your, whatever you're using, 3x, 2x, 1x, whatever you want on that. So we're just going to set this aside now and just let the super glue fully cure, fully dry, and we're going to forget about it for right now. So our rear hook is going to be a Gami B10S. This is size 4. You can roll any size you want. Fulling Mill makes a really good one. Their stripper streamer hook. I mean, it's just this bend, right? I think it's a TMC 8089. It's kind of the same bend, but I just like the wide gape of this hook a lot. The Gami is a bit thinner wire than the other ones, so it's a bit lighter duty. I haven't really had any problems with this hook bending out, believe it or not. I thought for years it would, but it seems to be holding good. But if you're worried about it, you can go with the Fulling Mill version, which is a bit thicker wire than this. So I'm going to flip this upside down, and as soon as I can find the rabbit I just had, we're going to, this is going to be a hook up. This is going to ride a hook up, so I'm going to take my rabbit strip, get myself a bit of a tail here, stab it through the eye of the, or through the point of the hook, bring it down, take my hook out, bring it down, and stick it back in the vise. And now I can figure out like my tie-in point here. make a couple wraps, pull down hard, couple wraps, pull down hard, and I'm going to bring up the rabbit strip, and it'll just it'll just lock it in, just wedging your thread up into that rabbit strip. So now we've just locked in that strip so it won't twist, it won't turn on you. I'm going to flip this back around just because it's kind of easier to work this way. And add a little crystal flash. I like using this copper a lot with olive especially. It just seems to really blend well. So throwing some copper crystal flash. I like to tie it in and then flip it over and then get your front strip out of the way, and then I can clip this to the length I prefer. Okay. For the body, there's a lot of different stuff you can use. On this one, I'm just going to use a mix of Polar Chenille and Estes. So I've got some olive brown UV or whatever Polar Chenille, and then some olive Estes. And then I'll tie these in together. Then I'll wrap my Estes first, and I'll leave a little gap in between each wrap, and that gap is where I'm going to seat my Polar Chenille. So tie that in. You're going to want to leave a little bit of room on your head here. That rabbit strip is going to take some room to tie off. Okay. Polar Chenille I'm going to hold back with my fingers, and then on each wrap I'm going to wrap in the gap I left in the Estes. You can wrap this whole thing with the Polar Chenille. It becomes a lot, you know, and this Polar Chenille is so skinny that it takes like freaking 50 wraps, you know, just to get to the front of even a small hook. This core is just so thin that just mixing it with the Estes seems to be a pretty efficient way of getting the same effect, but not burning through 5 yards of Polar Chenille just for a size 4 hook. So body's done. Flip it back over. I'm going to bring my rabbit strip up, split the Polar Chenille rabbit strip up, find a spot that you want to tie it off at. Make a couple good wraps on there. Pull the rabbit back, wrap in front of it, locks it in, clip it off. Okay, we built a little head here. This head is probably bigger than I normally like, but we're using 140, and we're tying out, you know, we're tying fairly significant bulky material, right, like with rabbit hides and stuff. There's a way to, if you're really concerned about the head, you could actually throw some rabbit in a dubbing loop and just tidy this up, you know, and just do like a 2-turn little rabbit dubbing loop, and then just barely have a head here. Actually, I can show you what that'll look like. This is literally just for your own whatever, like not, you know, some people just don't like to have big heads, kind of the sign of a quality fly or whatever, you know what I'm saying. So I'm just going to take some rabbit, clip it off the hide here. Right, throw in a dubbing loop. Dubbing loops are great for getting, you know, this would be like the same as wrapping rabbit on the hide, except our core now is just very, very small because we're using thread. I'm going to push it down and spin it up. Anytime we're working with fur, you want to brush it out really good. Okay, and then you can wrap it up, good tight wraps. You can see we're covering up that head. So I'm going to 3 wraps, pull the thread back, make another 3 wraps, 4 wraps, whatever you need to. Now I'm going to whip finish before I cut this off. We're getting tight on space. Okay, we're a little bit too tight for whip finish, so I'm going to, let's see, where are we at here? What just happened? So this is really common. I've purposely crowded this eye, so I'm going to redo here. I'm going to make my few wraps, and then throw a half hitch. Okay, now I've got a half hitch. I can cut my dubbing loop off. Since I half hitched it, I don't have any worries about it coming undone. 1 half hitch is not going to do you, but what you can do is throw some super glue on your thread. Make your wraps. Wait a couple seconds, and then just clip it off. That is a permanent solution to the tiny little head problem we got. So that is the rabbit dubbing loop to like finish off. You know, you can see how tiny this head is now. We basically just covered up thread. I mean, it looks cool, which is, you know, like the name of the game with this stuff, but this isn't going to add much effectiveness, right? I'm not, like, I didn't do this for effect or whatever, but at any rate, it kind of finishes off a little nicer. This would actually be a badass little streamer just as it is, but we will connect it to something substantially larger. Alright, we've got our jig hook in the vise that we've made. Everything's all dry, this thing's secure, not going anywhere. I'm going to tie our thread in, and we've got it upside down because we are going to be, actually, let's go right side up, because we've got to secure our rear hook. So I'm going to tie in some intruder wire. I'm leaving this long, and I'll show you why in a sec, but leave it out quite a bit. Okay. I'm going to grab a couple beads. We'll throw a couple beads on here. That just helps fouling, helps it not foul. A couple red beads. Like that. We want to make sure when we tie in the section we just made that it's the same direction. As the hook's facing the same direction as the other hook, so both hooks are going to be pointing the same way. Throw back through. Whoop. Okay. I'm just going to do a couple light wraps. Now we can size this. And we're going to go something like that. So now we're going to wrap it all down together. And I'm going to cut these even. Tie it up. Now we're going to add a little bit more glue. A little bit of glue and like super glue, and really taking some steps to make sure all this is extra secured now. It takes no time at all to add the super glue and really make sure that these are not ever going to come out. Like, a little bit of preventative maintenance now is, you know, everything in the future. So these two tag ends, I'm going to bring it underneath. I don't know how well you can see that, but I'm going to take my where the spinner wire is, I'm going to go underneath. So I've got one on one side, one on the other. I'm going to go underneath and opposite and make a couple wraps. Opposite of this side, come underneath and then back over. And then wrap all this down. The reason we do that was typically, you know, I would run it through the eye of the hook just to make sure, you know, it can't slip out. But I don't have an eye of this hook, these jig hooks, that I can do that with. So we're going to run it underneath here. Alright, cool. Flip her over. And then, actually, this is my last piece of this rabbit, so I'm going to have to use a different rabbit, but hopefully you all forgive me. It's just a little bit of a different shade. It might look funky, but it is what it is. Give yourself a little bit of extra rabbit here. We're going to poke it through, and what that will do is cover the beads up. And then the vice pawn here is going to save me. Alright, we're going to find our tie-in point here. Sometimes a bodkin's easy when we're dealing with this rabbit that's just kind of everywhere. Looks good enough for me. Make a couple wraps here. Got some pinched, so I'm going to pull it out, bring it up, and then tie it in. Or sorry, lock it in, I should say. Okay. What a mess. So now we're going to do the same with our body, the Estes and Polar Chenille mix. Believe it or not, this is one of the simpler streamers you can tie. You get into a lot of the gallop stuff, and it gets tricky. I mean, there's a lot of talent there that and a lot of practice that you need to tie a lot of those gallop flies. This is on the simpler side, actually, believe it or not. So I'm going to tie both of these in. Just that hook point is really trying to break my thread. Now, before we tie it in all the way, you're going to want to size your head here and see where we're at, because we got to add fins and a collar and all that kind of stuff. So really kind of think ahead of time where you're going to start when to add fins and a collar and things like that. So I'm going to put my thread right about there. You know, because we got stuff to do up at the head, so don't go all the way too far. Again, I'm just going to leave a little bit of a space in between each of these. Gosh, these scissors are wrecked. I go through scissors like crazy. I guess cutting wire doesn't help anything. We're going to wrap our polar chenille in between each gap. You notice I'm grabbing it and pulling these fibers out so they don't get all jumbled up underneath each other. Alright, tie that in, and bring it all back, and then tie it all down. Get everything tidied up here. I'm going to take a needle or anything you got laying around, scissors, points, and just kind of poke some of this sideways like that. Bring my rabbit strip up. And then get your tie-in point down. I'm going to make like 3 wraps, cut it, and now I can secure that really well. Cool. Starting to look something familiar-esque. At least we got all the rabbit and garbage taken care of so we can see ourselves think here. Alright. I'm going to add some underneath red. So for underneath the fins, rear fins, I'm just going to add a spot of red dubbing. This is just red ice dub. Okay. Something like that. And now, to go over the top, so I want kind of like a dorsally type of fin thing. I'm just going to take a barred marabou plume. You can do solid color or whatever. I just like this stuff a lot. Just going to go over the top. Like that. Oh my gosh, these scissors are trashed. Okay, so that will cover kind of our little red underneath here, and now we have to do something with fins. Alright, so collar. I'm going to take a piece of guinea, olive guinea. I'm going to smash the stem with my thumb and forefinger, and that'll help get it flexible. I'm going to keep this fluff on here, not all of it, but a fair amount, like 1 turn's worth. Smash this stem with your thumb and forefinger. Tie this in tip first. Run my scissors down the top so it just kind of, ow, kinks all those feathers. I've stabbed myself like 8 times on this fly. Alright, wrap this guinea. Now we're into the fluff here. Bring it up. Tie it off. I'm not worried about the size of this head because this is all going to be covered. Bring it all back. Okay. Adds a lot of variegation, a lot of cool aspects. I am going to throw in some rubber legs on this one. So I grabbed the whole shebang here. I'm going to grab 3 and just rip it off. Now I can tie in, oops, that's 4. I can just tie in all of them at once. Okay. And I will clip these. Did I miss one? What's going on here? 3 on this side, 3 on that side. Gosh, I had another extra. So grab our legs and go about 2/3 of the way back. Clip them all together. Cool. Alright, now we can measure your head, see where we're at, because I know what I want to do for a collar. So we're looking beautiful right there. Deer hair makes, in my opinion, just some of the most amazing pec fins, and it swims really good. So I'm going to add just a quick deer hair collar here, and that should right about round us out. Got some olive deer hair. I'm going to grab a healthy chunk. It's really important anytime you're stacking hair, comb it through, get rid of all the fluff and all the garbage that's going to keep it from stacking. Alright, I'm going to stack it fairly aggressively. Got all of our tips lined up here. And I'm going to size it to how long I think the pec fin should be. So we're going to go 2/3 of the body length on the front hook. I'm going to do a full wrap, and then just help it along. Take a look here, make sure I like it all. We got some binding going on down here. Whoa, don't do that. Okay. I'm just going to keep wrapping until I'm happy with it. I'm going to take these butts and trim them down just to get kind of an idea of where I'm at. Okay, now you can throw on this head here and see where we need to trim. Alright, so right now we got mohawk on top going, so we're going to trim this way down around the eye. Okay, that should be good. Test fit our head again. Where are we at? Alright, looking pretty good there. I'm going to pull everything back. Make some wraps. Give it a whip finish. Add a little super glue. Throw on our sculpin head. Push it back really tight. Tie on our thread. So I've tied on the thread, I've pushed this back, and now this thread is wedged against that head. And it's not going anywhere. Do another whip finish. Whoop. Gosh dang it. The angle's sharp on this. I'm just going to do a 3 wrap. Cut off, cut off. Make sure we can still get everything through there. And then super glue. Now, I have clogged the eye with super glue. That's no problem. I'm just going to take a marabou feather or whatever I got laying around, run it through, and that takes care of that. Now, if you want, you can just kind of clean up this. Now time for the eyes. These little eyes they come with do not stick worth a darn with the sticky back, so I just throw a little more glue in there just to make sure they stay put, and they are tiny. But if you do not glue them, they may not even make it to the river before they fall off. And I am fighting with this one. Alright. Eyes are in. Now you can, if you want, take a marker and just, add some dots to the head. I think it adds quite a bit of just aesthetics, just dotting, throwing some dots around. There's better artists than me out there for that, but I just throw some dots in there and call it good. So that's it. That's the fly. And I hope you enjoyed. Hope you'll take it on the challenge, and hope it really works good for you. Thanks.